Rashid walked into the house. Mariam was in the room upstairs, tracing his every move. She heard the creak of the wooden floor protesting against his weight, the opening and closing of cabinets, the fork and the knife against the plate, a cough, a grunt, the click-clack of his boots walking upstairs. She was terrified. She didn't know why, she didn't know what the reason would be this time, but she knew she was gonna get beaten, punched, kicked, just like every other night. I just recited a passage from one of New York's bestsellers, A Thousand Splendid Suns, by Khalid Hosseini. This book is based on interviews of women who lived and died in Afghanistan during the time of the Taliban. The woman I was telling you about, Mariam, was forced to marry a man 3 times her age when she was only 15. We're gonna keep talking about her later. My name is erminthon.m-spe113-spr12, and today I want to talk to you guys about the Taliban and women in Afghanistan. By the end of my speech, I want each and every one of you to have a brief understanding of the history of the Taliban, the conditions of women under Taliban rule, and how things are slowly changing now that the Taliban were cast out of power. So let's begin. The Taliban were the children of war, pretty much sons of Afghan families who fled to Pakistan during the Soviet occupation between 1979 and 1989. They pretty much grew up in refugee camps, no school. The only education they had was religious. After the Soviets left, the country was left in civil war. The death toll was in the millions. As estimated by Beth Rowan, published author of CNN. The Taliban came back to retake Afghanistan, and by 1996, they had taken over 90% of the country. They implemented Sharia law, or Islamic law, and they had a very strict interpretation of the Holy Quran. They ruled with an iron fist, and women were often found the target of this fist. This now brings us to the conditions of women in Afghanistan during the Taliban rule. With the new laws implemented by the Taliban, women were not allowed to work or go to school. They were pretty much locked out in their houses, wearing burqas where they could barely walk or see anything. Only a handful of nurses were allowed to go out and work, and the only reason was that women were not allowed to be treated by men, and men were not allowed to be treated by women. So that was the only reason why they went out. Abdul Kaiver, editor of Save the Children, wrote an article called Children in Crisis, where he explained that only 10% of pregnant women were treated during the time of the Taliban. And because of this, about 1,400 women died each year from birth-related complications, compared to only 12 women who died every year in the United States. Gail Lemon, Deputy Director of the Women's Foreign Policy Program of the Council of Foreign Nations, estimates that only 2% of female students were actually attending school between 1997 and 1998. Afghanistan is 250,000 miles. To put it in perspective, this is about the size of Texas. There were 12 million female students in Afghanistan at that time, and only 240,000 were actually attending school. That is less than the people who live in Manhattan today. In December 2001, the Taliban implemented laws where they promoted a practice called Ba'at, which consists of giving a woman to another family to resolve a dispute. Also, hundreds of girls were imprisoned for moral crimes. This crime consisted of running away from home, pretty much to escape abuse, and having sex outside of marriage. Now, having sex outside of marriage could also include being raped and being sexually abused. So, after the attacks of 2001, and forces from the United States and Afghan resistance groups kicked the Taliban out, and since then, women have now seen much improvements in their lives. So we go to women in Afghanistan now. Again, Gail Lemon from Deputy Director of the Foreign Policies of the Foreign Policy Nations and the Women. Deputy Director of Foreign Policy at the Foreign Nations Administration, estimates that 3 million women, female students are not back in schools. 3,000 midwives go out each day to help save the lives of women and their babies in a country that Save the Children once rated the deadliest for expectant mothers. The government is now on the women's side with the help from foreign nations like the United States. And the new Afghanistan Constitution, in the Article 22, it says, the citizens of Afghanistan, whether man or woman, have equal rights and duties under the law. Another law called EVWA, meaning End Violence Against Women, now criminalizes any act of violence against women and guarantees that the perpetrator goes to jail. These laws are no surprise, since now over 69 of the 249 seats in the Afghanistan parliament are composed of women. So we will definitely see more laws in favor of women in Afghanistan now. To finish the speech, I hope by now you should know a little bit of the history about the Taliban. You should know the conditions of women in Afghanistan during Taliban rule. And you also should have a brief understanding of how things are slowly changing now that the Taliban were kicked out of power. I want to thank you all for listening. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Have a nice day.
Yes, I heard someone say bravo. I totally agree. I just want to finish up my notes here. Why did you say bravo?
Because it was great.
Now talk about it. Someone talk about what you liked about it.
The content.
What
Transitions and the way he spoke.
transitions were terrific, weren't they?
Yeah.
Talk about that use of the slideshows at the end and the conclusion. I've never seen anyone do it that way. I'm going to steal from you and kind of make that part of my lesson. Where are you? I'm done. Huh? You assume it. You won't even know I'll do it. But that use of going back over the slides and going back, I covered this, and this, and it's so simple to do, and it was a great visual reminder of this is what you covered, right? Yeah, we were talking earlier about this informative speech contest that we have every February. Actually, we have it, John Jay, in December. But I'd like you to contact me. I'd like to work on this with you. And maybe we can get you into the John Jay contest. This is a great topic, and there's some things I'd like you to work on. Like there's a middle part, you kind of lost some stuff. But I thought the beginning was terrific. And having the book, the slideshow was almost like a movie that took us through the speech. It illustrated everything you were talking about. It was a real great use of those pictures to kind of take us through. I thought Naveen did well with that also. It's kind of the use of pictures to kind of guide us through the speech. So good work, really good. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, sir.